and welcome to yet another exciting webinar with Trade Estonia. Good morning to those that are watching live. Good day, good afternoon, good evening to those that are watching after the fact. My name is Florian Marcus, and I'm a digital transformation advisor at the e-Estonia Briefing Center. And today we get to talk about many different exciting topics. We will see lots of presentations, and we will also have time for Q&As, both with you, the audience, and of course the people that made the presentations as well. We have a very important topic today. We've been through very challenging months over the last, half year, I would say, with the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, this has also been challenging for the companies that we lead, that we work in, and that we love around the world. The pandemic meant that many industries automatically struggled, and we should also see this as an opportunity, I think. Yes, it was a challenge, but it also provides us with the ability to structurally renew the entire organization or parts of it, if we so wish. Many companies are struggling with outdated legacy systems. This is the perfect occasion, the perfect opportunity to get rid of these systems, to update them, to renew and create new strategies that would help with digital services, but also with more physical industries, to create more useful services for your customers, as well as for your employees. Of course, this requires creativity and a lot of desire to reinvent your organization. And we also realized that new solutions must include digitalization. It is no longer optional. It is rather necessary that we digitalize our processes so that they are faster, cheaper, more transparent at the same time, and user-friendly for those people that are at the receiving end of those solutions and services. For that purpose, we are talking to lots of different companies today. We will have three sort of main areas. The first one is digitalizing logistics. This will be covered by GoSwift, Auvetech, and Helmes. We also have Nortal, Proekspert, and Flowit, who will talk about supply chain management. And then we've got CybExer, Mobi and GuardTime, who will do presentations about cybersecurity and data storage. But before we talk about all of that stuff, we need to talk about today's virtual event platform that we call WorksUp. In WorksUp, you can ask questions from presenters by clicking on the Q&A button under each presentation's title. If you do not have your own question, you can still support another person's question and upvote them if you want this question to be answered in particular. There is also a possibility for networking, and I can't emphasize this enough, because this is for you the chance to talk to like-minded people that have similar or the same interests. So by clicking on the profile icon in the far right corner, you can create your own profile. And we will do our best to match you with people that have similar interests and desires, so you can set up meetings together with them. And also be sure to push on the media icon under each presentation's title, where you can download the company's presentations, read articles, or see the introduction videos. But for the time being, this is all from my side. Let's go to the first presentation, which is from Madis Sassiat, who's working at GoSwift, and he will talk about decreasing turnaround time by scheduling arrivals of trucks at terminal gates. Let's go.
Hello. I'm Madis, I'm from GoSwift, and I will tell you about the seamless traffic flow to and inside cargo terminals. Still, it doesn't mean that the terminal is the only thing where you can use the system. It can be also a production site, port, wholesale stock, logistic hub, or maybe even construction site. So don't limit yourself only to this wording and the meaning of a terminal. But can you imagine that all the trucks are arriving in perfect order, just on time, flow is seamless and permanent without any interruption? This is exactly you can achieve if you will start using GoSwift scheduling system. And I can ensure it can be implemented only in one day. So what it is, you may see every day if you are one of those terminals or trucking companies. It is basically the communication error or problem between the terminal and driver. So it is very hard to organize one and time-consuming. If you have seen it, it is always kind of a hassle. So there is always a dispatcher in between, and you don't know the numbers of to whom to call and so on. But it can be organized automatically if you choose to use GoSwift approach. So can you imagine what is happening if all the trucks are arriving at the same time? Of course, it creates congestion in front of the gates. So, and it is very often the case what will happen, what we can see also everywhere, whose trucks are coming to lift or pick up some cargo. You know, all of them are still people and human beings, and they want to start early morning and end up their journeys by the evening. As you know, families are important to all of us, isn't it? And regarding this congestion, it is creating waste in any way. Pollution, loss in revenue, well, you name it. So, if there is no such problems for you, what it could be which can solve it all? The solution can be all-in-one inbound logistics scheduling system, which can connect all the vehicle management side and terminal traffic management. So it is basically seamless information exchange with minimum human interaction. So let me tell you what could offer to the drivers and transportation companies with such kind of a tool. Basically, it creates a possibility to make the registration remotely. It also makes it possible to change the registration without any kind of a problem. It makes it possible to manage the time dynamically. And it creates also possibility to the drivers to navigate without any hassles. It makes it possible for the terminal owner define the corridors which are approved and officially approved by the city government, for example, to approach to the place. There is also everything prepared for the truck if it is arriving, as you know exactly which cargo it will bring, and you will be ready to have the right kind of tools to load the cargo from the truck. And to you, as a terminal owner or whoever you are, it is possible to create any kind of time slots. You can even imagine everything is customizable. There is also the gate assistant with all kind of stop bar management and number plate readers. There is also parking management, and as well you can arrange all kind of loading and resources to allocate to specific truck. You can book it and you know exactly that it is free for you to use it at this time when it arrives. So let me show you some of those interfaces we have already created. This one is made to Port of Tallinn and Port of Helsinki, and it is made for the Tallinn ferries to give sort of assistance to the truck drivers arrive on time to the ferry, and they will be ready at the gate and then will be waiting for the ferry at the very exact time. There is also interface to show that there is many of those possibilities to collect any kind of data, which is, for example, here to the container terminal. So here is also the one example which is used for drivers for Port of Valencia to give them some sort of a navigation and understanding how they can approach to the port. And of course, GoSwift. GoSwift is operating since 2011. We have 40 plus employees around the world, 6 branches in different countries. We are operating 1.9 million of trucks annually. We are operating in borders already in many years, also ports. We have many of those production sites already in our operations, and TV towers. So what kind of features? Let's come back to this tool. We have pre-arrival communication for you, terminal traffic management, data collection and analysis, multi-platform and multi-users. You can use, make it usable to as many of your employees as you want. There is reports and monitoring available, and calls 24/7. So it can make many of values and create many of those. So it reduces the traffic congestion, reduces air pollution, improves the turnaround time, increases the productivity, and of course, it is the most important that increases the satisfaction. And GoSwift is the company which is saving 3 years of people's time daily basis. 3 years. So this is me. Please contact. I can tell you that I can answer to all of your questions. And also, at this point, we have sort of a campaign. Try it out 1 month, and you will see the value of the product. Thank you.
Well, that's a very generous offer that we just heard there, and I would assume that it's also very easy to implement, as you sort of mentioned at the start. As you can see, dear audience, right now we have Madis here with us. He is a board member at GoSwift, and we already have some questions from the audience as well. The first question is sort of more of a general one. What makes your solution unique?
Yes, thank you. It's a very good question. GoSwift has been providing such kind of information to the drivers already 10 years. So in this time, I believe we have already some sort of understanding how those drivers would like to receive and which kind of information they would like to have in which time and in which in what way. And if I may say, we can, by this GoSwift solution, automate everything. For example, the terminal owner can make the sort of routes which those drivers should take to approach to the place. And at the same time, those terminal owners can make and prepare the messages they want to deliver to the drivers, and at what time the drivers needs to depart in order to make it on time, according to the traffic situation and everything which is on the road. So I believe this one is something which doesn't have any other such a system, so it makes it thus very unique that we know how those drivers are behaving.
I think the automation, of course, is very useful for all the different stakeholders that you just mentioned, and also oftentimes, too often, we see a sort of disconnect between the IT side, where people think, oh, the solution has to look like that, but then for the truckers it doesn't actually work. So I think the experience is worth more than it maybe sounds like at the very start. Second question, how satisfied are your existing customers with GoSwift solutions?
Well, it's hard to tell from my side, of course. You need
you might be
probably ask from our customers, but so far, as much as I understand, they are quite happy because no one hasn't break or cancelled our contract, and even vice versa, they have been made some additional developments and continuation in many forms. So I believe that they are quite happy.
If no one cancels on you, that's always a good sign, I think, absolutely. So we've been mostly talking about borders and so on, and ports and everything. Is it possible to collect parking fees with GoSwift?
Absolutely. We are having the let's say all those credit cards and payment possibilities which are possible in each of those countries where we are already operating or starting the operations. We have already made the interconnections to those payment systems, so I believe it's everything very easy to manage.
In the COVID-19 pandemic, what kind of problems can GoSwift solve?
Yeah, this is a very good question. By this COVID-19, we understood there is many of things which now has been changed. For example, there is not so much of contact needed, or it is better to make systems which are less contact-based. So in our approach, I believe there is no contact needed if we take, for example, those automation procedures. So drivers can make all of those appointments and take those communication without any one-to-one interaction. So this makes it possible to use by this new world order, and at the same time we also have created some new solutions in order to point to those measures which are meant, for example, to cross the borders. Especially if you're thinking that in the future, if those viruses will arise again, then there is a possibility that those trucks are leaving without the driver, or those trailers will be changed and swept. So it makes it possible to keep those drivers to stay on their own homeland, and then it kind of makes it possible to locate the virus spreading.
Absolutely, yeah, that sounds like a very useful solution, actually. I did mention in my introduction that legacy systems will be one of the biggest challenges for many companies. So there's one question that I think is very important to ask. Is it possible to integrate GoSwift with existing information systems as well?
Yeah, we are very willing to integrate it with any system which is already existing somewhere. We have made it many times. As much as we have seen, it is very easy, at least in technical point of view. Sometimes it just makes it under the question which information can be exchanged because of those legal questions. As we are operating in borders, it is very, very sensitive data sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me, to talk to the audience as well. For the time being, that would be all from Madis and GoSwift. And now we will hear about a solution made by Auvetech. We will have Paula Johanna Adamson on stage, and she will talk about the future of transit and driverless transportation.
I'm Paula, the Chief Marketing Officer for Auvetech. Auvetech specializes on autonomous vehicles. The autonomous driving is no longer intangible and already offers sustainable, safe, and smart solutions. We started our cooperation with Tallinn Airport last year in order to change the staff transportation inside the terminal. The personal vehicles cannot be used inside the terminal, so the workers are taken back and forth with a taxi. This could be changed by an autonomous vehicle, whether with predefined bus stops or an on-demand service. Our shuttles feature a teleoperation system from a German startup named Pilot. This way, one operator can operate multiple vehicles at the same time. And this is just one example of how the autonomous vehicle could help change the future. Our cooperation with Tallinn University of Technology started out in 2017, and the goal was to develop an autonomous shuttle from scratch for the university's 100th birthday. And today, Auvetech is manufacturing and developing these shuttles. Each shuttle is meant for 8 passengers and are meant for low-speed applications, up to 25 kilometers per hour. We are currently manufacturing our 10th shuttle and have demonstrated the shuttles in almost 10 cities in Estonia. Besides the airport, we have used our shuttles to transport visitors in Tallinn Zoo and in the Open Air Museum. We're also developing a modular platform for the shuttle so that it could be used for different applications. For example, the shuttle could transport waste or deliver parcels. Until now, we have used our shuttles in closed areas, but we are currently working with the local road administration in order to get our shuttles running on open roads. In fact, our first shuttle will be running on a public road this summer in a business district in Tallinn. Our shuttles are electric, but together with Skeleton Technologies, we are working on a shuttle that works with supercapacitors. And we have another cooperation project with the University of Tartu in order to develop a shuttle with hydrogen fuel. The outbreak of pandemic has put the logistics infrastructure under a stress test, and that means we have to find new ways to tackle the surge in demand. Auvetech is constantly looking for new ways to expand and develop, and we believe that flexibility is the best way to tackle the future. Thank you.
That was a very short and snappy and still interesting presentation from Paula Johanna Adamsson, who has joined me on stage here today as well. Thank you so much for being here. We already have a couple of questions about what I think is one of the most important fields of the next few decades to come as well, driverless transportation, of course. The first point is more one about your location here in Estonia. Would you consider being based in such a small country as Estonia is rather an advantage or a disadvantage?
Well, I would definitely not say it's a disadvantage. Estonia has a history of many internationally successful companies, and we're definitely happy to be in a hub of innovation. And we're thinking nationally, but also acting internationally. So we think it's rather a virtue.
I think it's also quite important to point out that self-driving vehicles, of course, they don't just have to operate in cities, they can also operate between retirement homes or anything else. Or as you talked about in the presentation, waste transport and everything else that comes with it. The second question that we have here, so there have been several international news about companies developing autonomous vehicles shutting down as of late. What are your plans? Where do you go right now?
I would say the field or the industry has definitely proved to be a lot more costly and a lot more complicated than many have probably expected, so hence the news. But we believe that having a clear vision and a clear strategy and a motivated team is a key to success, and we're also open to cooperation between other companies and universities, which we have also done in the past. And we're pretty confident in the future.
Yeah, you mentioned the cooperation with startups, but also with academic institutions. So it seems to be going pretty well, and the more, the better, absolutely. As for the shuttle itself, what are the next plans and bigger milestones connected to the self-driving shuttles that you have?
I would say we have reached one of our biggest milestones so far just lately. We have been approved as road legal, so the shuttles can now operate on public streets. And we're actually opening our first public operation in Ülemiste city today, and are looking forward to new projects. So I would say that this milestone starts sort of a new era for us, where we can deploy our shuttles not only in Estonia but worldwide and tackle the new challenges.
A tiny side plug from me here. If you do visit the e-Estonia Briefing Center to learn about digitalization at some point, the shuttle actually stops right in front of the building where we are. So I can't wait to take a drive myself with the shuttle as well. Let's check one more time whether we have any other questions. That would be a no for now. So thank you so much for being here, Paula. And we are going straight to the next presentation already. We will have a presentation on paperless and contact-free road transport for both today and tomorrow. And it will be done by Auvetech, who is a partner at Helmes.
Commercial road transport with its more than 2.5 million vehicles on the roads and more than 3 million drivers behind the wheels, is a big business in Europe. Unfortunately, the Monday morning traffic jams on the roads are not the only byproduct of this big and huge industry. Millions and millions of shipment documents are every morning printed out, signed all across Europe, and thousands of working hours are spent on that. Wouldn't there be a smarter way to spend this money and time? We certainly think there is. My name is Ove Muuk, and I'm coming from a second largest software house in the Baltics called Helmes. A couple of years ago, we teamed up with the national road transport associations in Estonia and in Finland in order to prepare for what seemed for us inevitable at that time, a full digitalization of a road transport. The result of that was a platform called Mobi, and the vision behind it, nothing less than fully paperless road transport all across Europe. How shall we do it? We shall give the information on those papers the form of what it actually is. It is a data. It's valuable data that can be and should be accessed by all of your counterparts in your logistics chain at the time and at the place where it matters the most for them. The aim of Mobi platform is to collect and capture the data of your shipments, the shipment orders, the goods in transport, details of that, and to combine that with real-time information on your vehicles, telematic information, and your drivers behind the wheels. This can be done directly on the platform itself, but also by integrating that to your other existing systems. Would that be our transportation management or accounting system, the fleet management or telematics systems of your truck vendors? We can integrate it. Once the data is stored, it can be used, reused, to generate all kinds of different shipment-related documents. ECMRs, e-invoices, your local electronic waybills, even the custom declarations that you can send directly to your national custom systems. Internationally accepted document formats can be used, but also all kinds of custom document templates can be configured. As a MobiGuardNet user, you can create, compile, and sign all those documents. You can share, send, and receive them for acceptance or counter-signing, store and archive them as you please, and always retaining the control over the data. MobiGuardNet, as a technical platform, will then orchestrate the distribution and exchange of that data to all your counterparts in the logistics chain, making sure that everybody will access the data when it is entitled to it. In that way, the platform kind of serves and supports for the whole circle of your logistics information in your logistics chain. A digital circle of trust, if you please. And funny enough, of course, you can always print out everything that on a paper, because we're not blue-eyed. There is still some way to go until all the participants in this industry are fully capable of electronic and digital interoperability. But with MobiGuardNet, we have created a platform that goes really beyond a functionality of a application of a simple one type of document creation. The personal and the business data security is built into the system, and we are wide open to all different kinds of international transport digitalization initiatives that are ongoing right now all across Europe. There's one more thing that is worth noticing about how do we treat the data on the MobiGuardNet platform. By combining the existing and known data in new, smarter way can sometimes give you a new information that you can utilize in a way that you have not figured or thought of before. Based on that principle, we have added first additional features and services on Mobi GuardTime platform as well. For example, the Mobi footprint using the technical data on the truck, the telematics data on the movements, and combining that with the shipment data and the goods data and your client data, can calculate and report your CO footprint on the level of each shipment or customer. Again, if the system detects from the goods list that there are dangerous goods loaded to the truck, the system combines that with the technical data of the truck and the trailer and generates illustrated instructions for your driver in the driver app how to put up the required signs. These are just examples of how you can use your data in a better and smarter way. And we are all open to your suggestions on that way. So please join us in this journey to a truly digital roads across Europe. Book a demo for Mobi GuardTime or challenge us with your plans for your digital transformation. Thank you.
Well, Mobi GuardTime seems to be a very reliable and useful solution for many different sides. We can see already that it's used in Estonia and Finland, so the cooperation is already working, which is great to see. We already have some questions from the audience, and with me is, of course, Auvetech from Helmes. The first question that I would ask from here is, can shipment documents created in Mobi GuardTime be used for other transport modes as well? So, for example, if a shipment goes from the road to the sea or other cases?
Well, I hope, first of all, that the shipment itself does not really go to the sea, but on a sea. But in general, I see there would be a kind of two ways the road shipment can go over to the sea shipment. Is first of all when the truck enters the ferries. And there, of course, you can use the integration services from Mobi GuardTime to pre-notifications of your ferry operators, or maybe in the check-in systems to let know what is actually on the truck. Maybe there are dangerous goods or anything similar that the ferry operator then needs to take care of differently. We are actually right now, implementing such integration with the ferry operators here in Tallinn port, hopefully also on the other end in Helsinki. But on a wider scale, all the information on the shipments and the goods in the truck can be also kind of reused for generating the shipment documents of other transport modes in railway, in the sea, in the air. Of course, the overlap of this information is only partial, and there are kind of transportation mode specifics in other transport modes. But still, the overlapping information can and is also today used for such kind of cross-modal documentation information exchange.
I think that was a fair question, like that this interoperability between the different transport modes is extremely important because it happens every
Absolutely.
day. Yeah, both you and now just I, we mentioned that Mobi GuardTime works between Estonia and Finland. One question from the audience would be whether it can be used in other countries as well. How would that work?
Well, it was built. It started because of our partners in this project for these two countries. Effectively, there are no restrictions to implement or utilize the same platform in any other country. And of course, it is also our aim to expand with this service offering. From country to country, there might be certain differences or limitations sometimes for what kind of information, with what with what level of the legal kind of performance value or representation value you can give out from the system. Within the system, between all your counterparts, you can use full functionality of Mobi everywhere. But until we don't have a universally acceptable electronic signature and electronic identity within Europe, until then we need to kind of look country by country specifically what kind of legal representation value these signatures given within our systems will have for the third parties.
I've noticed that we've got lots of viewers from Scandinavian countries today, and I was just thinking, wouldn't it be nice if all the different sort of Baltic Sea neighbors would work on that network? I think that would be. You're
on the very right track. On the right track. It's actually also our aim to close the circle.
Well, very good. You heard it here first. So make sure to get in touch with Ove after this presentation. One final question that I see right now. How will solutions like MobiCarnet help in crisis situations such as the recent COVID-19 lockdowns all over Europe, but also future crises like it?
Well, first of all, hopefully there won't be any crisis or of the same magnitude as we saw in March, in February in Europe. But as also Madis previously mentioned, these kind of services that make the information that has been so far been used on a paper and face-to-face, hand-to-hand, by digitalizing those, we can actually minimize the need for actual physical contact, if that is the need. And as we saw in those urgent days of March, when the borders closed all over Europe. So this is the first impact, of course, because the platform also today has the possibility to share the information if you, as a data owner, choose so. To share this information also to your police, national kind of police systems, to your custom systems. So basically, if your data is in the system and it can be and is distributed to your kind of road services or border services digitally, the driver can choose not to leave the cabin at all. This is one thing, but also, if every shipment in Europe would have its kind of digitally traceable content, then this would also, of course, help the countries and the governments to much better kind of organize and plan for a specific life-supporting transport, for example, some other strategic goods that are moving, that have to be moving seamlessly also even in the kind of lockdown situations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ove, for being with us today. And we're going straight to the next presentation, which is done by Sten Gawronski, and we will also be joined in the studio later by Juhan Maris Buk. They are both from AItoldyou, and they are talking about how to digitalize logistics from pen and paper to AI.
Hi, my name is Sten Gawronski, and I'm going to talk to you about AItoldyou, a solution that we've developed specifically for the logistics industry. Now, with logistics industry, we've seen that there's still a lot of outdated systems in use, outdated practices, there's low efficiency and low margins. And sadly, still pen and paper are king. But we've also noticed that only 10% of companies are ready to change. With AItoldyou, we believe that we can speed this process up. The solution itself is divided into several components. We start with quote and book, which is an easy way for customers to hand in their requests on your website, and it automatically is routed to the responsible persons. Churn management with automated warnings, sales automation in general, where bookings and quotes are sent out automatically. Customer behavior analytics, detailed predictions of the future, which I'm going to be mentioning or talking about a little bit later. The first step, quote and book. Now, this is a great tool with spot quotes and spot customers. What we've seen in the logistic industry is that a lot of companies were avoiding spot customers previously. The reason behind that was it was too much hassle. With each customer, there's too much back and forth emails, and the shipments themselves are a little bit unpredictable. So the companies were preferring long-term contracts. With AItoldyou, we've automated the process and made spot customers as easy to handle as long-term customers. Here's a little screenshot of the solution or the book and quote part from the sales rep side, where you can see the list of all the requests that have come in, which have been handled, where an offer has been sent out, and which offers or which requests or offers have already been accepted by the customer. I also wanted to stop by and go a little through a little case study that we've done with DSV Estonia. They handle around 300,000 shipments yearly, or 6,000 shipments weekly. And from that, around 1,300 were spot quotes requests. Their average hit rate before we started with AItoldyou was around 40%, or 500 shipments. But they wanted to increase that. And with AItoldyou, they were able to raise that to 80%. So 500 high margin shipments weekly in addition. And I wanted to point out high margin, because spot quotes are higher margin than long-term contracts. After we've implemented quote and book, we started with auto pricing. But that was only in cases where there were predefined rules. So, for instance, predefined traffic routes, Germany to Estonia or Estonia to Germany. If there is 1 to 5 pallets with a specified weight and specified dimensions, and when there were no conditions on temperature or other special requirements. Those quotes were sent out automatically. And that saved a lot of time, both on the company side and from the customer side. We also implemented churn monitoring to see when and why customers are leaving your services. And with the data that we got from the requests, or with the structured data, we could see, or we can already see where there is a deviation in behavior, customer behavior, and we can start or notify your sales rep. They can contact the customer and find out what the reasons behind it, and also try to convince them to do otherwise. Here's a little example of a customer graph, where we see that the successful shipments are the green columns, and the red ones are shipments where the customer actually handed in the requests, but didn't actually ship with you. So that probably went to your competition, and that's lost sales, which could have come to you if you find out what the reasons behind it is. Now, the prediction part. Once we've structured all the data that is coming in from your customers, we can start seeing patterns in your customer behavior. And from those patterns, we can start predicting short periods of time. So, for instance, a week. Imagine when your sales rep are coming in on Monday, and they have already the shipments for the whole week predicted with an 80% of accuracy. That saves a lot of time, and there's clear, defined processes that have to be done without having to do a lot of manual work. Because there's a well-known fact, it is 7 times more expensive to find new customers than it is to keep existing ones. Here's a little screenshot of what I mean by predictions. Here we have a list of customers with the accuracy of, or where we can see the accuracy of the predictions themselves, and where we see a downtrend or uptrend in the customer shipment amount, and which customers should be contacted, and which customers behave the usual way. Now, the results of AItoldyou in where we've implemented this is that we've seen a rise in spot sales, about 30%, 70% reduction in churn, and 100% transparency in sales. And what we've also seen, we didn't come up with these numbers, these are handed in from our customers. We've seen also a revenue return on cost almost by 30 times. That means every euro you spend, you get 30 back. Thank you for your time. This was an introduction to AItoldyou. I would gladly schedule a demonstration time with you and show you how AItoldyou can apply it to your business and where it would bring the most value. Here are my informations on the slide, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.
And with us today is not Sten Gawronski, but Juhan-Maris Buck, also from AItoldyou. Juhan-Maris is a partner and business development manager at AItoldyou, and we're going to talk about the same topic. That was a very interesting presentation, and I think the notion of paying €1 to get 30 back, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. We do have some questions from the audience as well. The first one is, does AItoldyou work with different ERP or TMS solutions? So ERP being Enterprise Resource Planning and TMS being Transport Management Systems.
Hello, everybody. Yes, it does. It does work with different solutions. We, or the customer, integrates the solution AItoldyou to their ERP or TMS system. So it does work, and we have seen that it works with most of the products available on the market.
It's something that stands out to me with many Estonian companies, actually, the sort of flexibility of going to the customer and like finding out exactly what they need and adapting the solution so that it works for them, just like other clients as well. The other question that we see right now, what kind of companies use the solution so far? Could you give us an overview of industries or something like that?
Yeah. Basically, the conceptual part can be used within various sectors, but now we have built it focused on logistics, and main users are expeditors, so that they see the need from their customer side and can predict. So if I send you a proposal before you know that you need one, it's a wow effect for most of the customers, and they understand that the companies using our product know more about them than they know themselves. It's a bit creepy, but it does work. We haven't had any problems with that.
Yeah.
There is a wow effect for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine if you're just about thinking, oh, I might need X, Y, Z, and then there's already an email saying, hey, do you want to have X, Y, Z? I think that's very good. Sort of connected to my previous question, but a bit more in detail, whose jobs would be automated thanks to your solution?
I think that nobody's jobs will be automated. The outcome of the work of salesperson, for example, in a company, the quality will rise a lot. They can sell much more. They have much more information to make their decision based on. So the quality will rise, and as Sten showed the numbers, your sales will grow up, and you will have 100% clarity in your sales team.
Interesting. And the final question that I see here for the time being, is the solution working as a software as a service model? How long is the implementation period in order to start using the system itself?
Very good question. It is a SaaS model. And there, as Sten mentioned as well, we have different products in one product. So to start using Quoted Book tool, it can take a week or two, and it's done. The question is, with what do we have to integrate it, if at all? And the second part is the prediction model. And prediction model takes a bit more time to start using it, because then we come to a problem with data quality. And basically, I haven't seen a company that has 100% quality data. So we have to start from that and then see how long it takes. But I haven't seen an implementation longer than a month. So it's quick.
That's pretty good news, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for telling us more about your solution. I think, sounds like a very good way of investing your money wisely.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Juhan-Maris.
Thank you.
We're turning straight to the next presentation. It will be Henrik Lumme from Nortal, who will tell us more about world-leading solutions for biofuel production.
This is the Nortal webinar on world-leading solutions for biofuel productions, live from my home. My name is Hendrik, and I'm a partner and senior business consultant at Nortal. I've spent most of the past decade advising organizations on how to stay ahead of tech disruption and thrive in tomorrow's economy. In this short webinar, I will introduce you to Nortal, our approach, and a recent example from the oil and gas industry, which illustrates how our approach helps our customers. So let's get started with a few words of introduction about Nortal. We are a company that specializes in digital transformation projects, with more than 30 years of experience in working with leading industrial companies. We operate in North America, Europe, and the Gulf region. We help enterprises transform their industrial processes through the introduction of industrial IoT, cloud computing, machine learning, predictive maintenance, and automation. How do we do it? In short, Nortal's approach views technology as only one part of digital transformation. IT exists in a complex ecosystem rather than as a simple business function. From the beginnings of our company, we have sought to combine our technological expertise with a deep understanding of business processes and the interdependencies between business and technology. As nowadays, technology changes ever faster and can affect the business models of entire industries and create new business opportunities for innovators, IT must become a strategic partner to management and an enabler of business transformation. This approach is called ecosystem thinking, and I want to quickly introduce it to you, to where it comes from before we go into the case study. One of the sources of ecosystem thinking is the increasing frustration of companies with the limits of large monolithic modern ERP systems. In the past, vendors of modern ERP systems have tried to cover an increasing number of business functions with their systems. However, more and more specialized business processes and rapidly changing requirements are pushing this approach to its limits. According to Gartner, this has already led to a new era of postmodern ERP systems. This approach aims to refocus ERP on the core business functions they were originally designed for. At the same time, specialized software products or individual developments are used to solve specific business problems. An integration layer is then used to connect these different parts to allow the business to automate processes across functions and to efficiently maintain an overview of the entire business. While bringing together a wide variety of connected technologies, data, and processes into a fully integrated end-to-end system, postmodern ERP enables enterprises to update and replace functionality as often as needed, quickly and with minimal disruption. This is particularly helpful to quickly adapt technology to changing business needs. Postmodern ERP systems are a good example of ecosystem thinking, because they don't view technology or certain business areas in isolation. Postmodern ERP systems are all about finding the best solution to a specific problem, while considering the interdependencies to the wider ecosystem that the business exists in. This is exactly why we've used this approach in the case study that I want to talk about next. This case study is about how we used ecosystem thinking to make complex supply chain processes more efficient for a leading manufacturer of biofuels. As part of the global energy transition, our customer has been expanding the production of biofuels for several years. However, more recently, our customer has become caught up between two megatrends. On the one hand, the unstable price environment in the oil and gas sector meant the company needed to boost the efficiency of its operations to stay competitive. On the other hand, the process requirements of the business had become increasingly complex. Customers were demanding quality reports, regulators needed to be able to audit supply chains, and assets had to be monitored in real time. In addition, the production of biofuels entails enormous variations in the composition and quality of fuels, which comes from using a diverse range of biofuel sources. At the same time, biofuels must meet strict EU regulations regarding traceability and sustainable sourcing. In order to avoid continuing to do a lot of these new processes on paper, a higher level of automation was clearly needed. Intelligent, integrated software that could eliminate manual entry, streamline operations, and harness the power of IoT would be a true game changer for our customer. Getting there, however, was going to be a challenge, as the company's monolithic ERP system was simply too rigid to be adapted to the new requirements, and no adequate software product existed for these particular issues. Hence, this was a case for ecosystem thinking and postmodern ERP. Together with our client, we decided to create state-of-the-art system for the management of terminal operations and delivery management. The chief benefit of the custom-built terminal and delivery management system, or TDMS for short, is the near total level of automation it provides, streamlining the dozens of processes that take place from the moment oil products arrive at the terminal to the point of delivery to retailers and customers. In the area of terminal management, the TDMS not only provides full supply chain transparency, it can, for example, also predict the precise outcome of each mix of biofuel. It even blocks any loading that would ruin a batch. By digitizing steps that had previously been handled on paper, our customer saves considerable time and effort while avoiding the inevitable errors that are associated with manual entry. Adopting the TDMS also provided our customers with valuable new functionalities that hadn't been possible before. Real-time monitoring of batch conditions and quality, both at the terminal and on delivery trucks. Automated integration of testing results from outside labs. Route planning and guidance for multiple deliveries and instantaneous billing are some of the examples of value added. Having information in an accessible digital format also paved the way for macro-level business analytics and oversight by management. Just as important, the implementation brought in new functionalities and a level of flexibility that would have never been achievable using the company's ERP system alone. Our customer is now ready to adapt its capabilities to whatever new challenges the market might bring. Building on solid IT know-how and 2 decades of experience in the oil and gas sector, Nortal delivered a far-reaching, robust solution to one of the industry's most significant players. We're now ready to help other terminal operators achieve the same success, designing systems that leverage the latest available technology, be they IoT, machine learning, or blockchain. With that, we're at the end of the webinar. I'm happy to answer any additional questions in the Q&A session, and please also feel free to contact me via LinkedIn if you wish to discuss how our approach can benefit your business. We're always happy to talk and brainstorm and find the best solutions for your specific challenge. Thank you for listening, and all the best.
Well, this was an interesting presentation about one of those things that are parts of the supply chain that are very important, but that perhaps I don't think about every single day. So it's interesting to get more of an insight into that part of the supply chain as well. As you could see just now, Hendrik could not make it here, but he is with us via Skype, and we can ask him some questions through that as well. Hendrik, thank you very much for being with us. We have 2 questions for the time being. The first one would be, what are the advantages of an ecosystem approach that you mentioned in your presentation as well, over a more traditional approach to digital transformation?
Hi, Florian. First of all, thanks for having me. When it comes to the advantages, I really think that this ecosystem approach allows you to leverage the full benefits that digitization has to offer, in the sense that it forces you, or it allows you to look for solutions, for software solutions that are best able to support the business processes that you have. You know, it's really, instead of trying to bend existing ERP systems or other existing systems to the specific requirements that businesses have, this approach really enables you to find specialized software or even to develop individual solutions that that best support complex business processes, whether it's commercial off-the-shelf products or individually programmed software.
Yep.
Secondly, and this is also quite important, I would say that it helps you, or it helps organizations to become more adaptable to change. We're seeing in today's world that business requirements, business needs are changing really fast. We're seeing it now with the crisis that your environment can change really quickly, and organizations that are sort of stuck with large monolithic systems, for them it's really hard to make fast changes to those changing needs. And with this approach, you become a lot more agile as an organization, I would say. And maybe lastly, it also helps you to avoid vendor lock-in. So you become less dependent on individual companies, but instead are able to change individual functions rather quickly.
I think the flexibility that you just mentioned will be very important for companies that, as you just mentioned in the presentation as well, are stuck sort of between the rock and a hard place because you've got sort of two stakeholders from both sides pushing them forward and backward. Absolutely. A second question that we got, in which areas does your approach work best, in your opinion?
I think it really works in a wide range of businesses and industries. I would even say it's not so much dependent on what type of industry you're in. It's more of maybe a size question. So for really small companies, this approach might not really be worth it. But as soon as you hit a certain size and a certain level of complexity in your IT landscape, this is really worth thinking about. And I would say, especially for those companies with highly specialized business processes. So for example, this terminal management in oil and gas, it's probably not something that a lot of people think about. It's not something that a lot of products exist for. Mm-hmm. So in those cases, this is really an approach that is worth considering. And a good indication, I think, for organizations is if you're spending a lot of money on customizing your ERP system and you're realizing that you're not getting out of it what you need, then this is really an indication that you should be thinking about the ecosystem approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you feel that pain, if you look at the balance sheet and think something doesn't quite add up between how much I spend and how much I get back, then the ecosystem approach makes an awful lot more sense. Well, thank you so much, Henrik, for joining us today. We are heading straight to the next presentation. We will be joined by Henry Aljan from Proekspert and also Kurt Winkelmann from Sensorize. Together, they will talk about how to reduce downtimes with sensor-based data collection and analysis. Let's go.
Remote work from home office, complicated and expensive access to maintain heavy equipment, monitoring remote assets. It all drives the need for digitalized and connected products. For the industrial manufacturing and maintenance market, we have a joint business offer from two companies. Proekspert from Estonia, together with our joint venture from Bremen, then a company called Sensorize. Two companies combined, we offer and apply German knowledge of hardware development, the sensor technology, with Estonian experience of building software-based digital tools. And we add to that the data analysis using data science and machine learning. More specifically, what is Proekspert? 27 years of mission-critical software to global companies, 200+ engineers with experience and expertise, particular capability to work with global companies. Important note is that in Proekspert, we always work with customers hand in hand, starting by defining which is the problem our software solution should solve. Based on that, we build a prototype and validate it with the customers. Again, based on that, on the feedback loop, we do a new prototyping and solution fine-tuning. This approach saves time and money to the customer, gives better satisfaction of completion to our own engineers. So it's a win-win. We serve global companies, and most of our customers, most of our revenues coming from export markets. Danfoss from Denmark, producing engines and automation equipment. Enix from Switzerland, producing electronics. Ericsson from Sweden, producing telecom equipment. Just few examples of our international customers. In Proekspert, we develop software. However, for a full machine-to-machine solution, or for example, a software and data analysis for production optimization, a digitalized hardware is part of the solution. And that is how Sensorize, with its unique technology, a sensor that is a hardware, enables raw data acquisition, which then will be transferred to the data center for further data analysis. Results will be presented on some kind of user interface, a display, for example, and the customer will have also access to the equipment. Sensorize. In Sensorize, we build digital machine components. That is, we are transforming a standard machine component into a connected and digitalized data source. How we do it? Let me explain it based on a screw. Here, we make use of the existing hardware tolerances and integrate a very thin measuring wire into the thread base of a screw. This way, the pretension of the screw can be continuously measured and transmitted to a data center. The technology is extremely sensitive, so we can evaluate even the finest dynamic signal changes. For example, offshore wind turbines. The wind turbine blades are attached to the hub by means of about 70 large screws per blade. Due to the size of the blades, the load on the blades and thus on the screws that hold them in place is very high. Sometimes they loosen up and break down, causing either loss of energy production or even large repair costs. This can be avoided with early warning system when transforming a standard screw into a sensorized sensor. Even in maintenance work, a substantial saving can be made as regular but reduced physical inspection can be combined with online information from sensorized screws. To visualize this example, we have developed a demo solution which is accessible and for trying out on the Sensory website. Screws for wind turbines is just one example of using sensorized unique technology. Generally speaking, this technology enables the measurement of static and semi-static loads in machine components, where vibration measurement is not possible due to low frequencies. And the only visual inspection is a time-consuming and error-prone option. In this example here, the wear and tear of a slowly moving conveyor system can be predicted and unplanned belt standstill can be avoided. Data science. With data science, we take a step further. We build patterns of operational parameters to optimize production or detect anomalies. Also, product development can be enhanced. To achieve this, we use our analysis methodology and apply findings at earliest to make a discovery. For example, analyzing satellite reaction with bearing behavior to detect the causes of small anomalies, the reason of which have not been explained before using traditional analytical methods, or analyzing behavior and time series data of industrial washing machine. In this use case, the data science team built an algorithm to have an early warning of a potential breakdown of a mechanical part, and this way enables the part to last longer. Or building a predictive model to detect the root cause of yeast production quality degradation and alert about it with high accuracy. To sum up, the joint offer of two companies. We take a standard machine component, we add to it electronics and sensoric, we connect it to the data center, we run analysis, and as a result, build new knowledge about the traditional manufacturing machines. We make traditional manufacturing into a digitalized, connected, smart production. Thank you for listening, and you're most welcome to contact me or Cord Winkelmann for your new challenges.
Well, that was one of those other topics. I just mentioned biofuel. I didn't think much about industrial washing machines, just about as little, but very important topics to maintain the value and so on of these big machineries. So with us, we have two people. We've got Henry Arjand here in the studio, as you can see, and we also have Cord Winkelmann, who is joining for the Q&A online. The first question that we have here would be that you mentioned that you have customers from telecom to manufacturing and finance. How is it working at the same time in those very different industrial sectors? Like, how do you make it happen?
Yeah, thank you for inviting. It's a simple answer to the question is that we assume that our customers are experts in their specific industry, so they know their industry very well. So when we approach a customer and start talking about their case, then actually we start with the problem framing, which means that we look into the business use case, and from there we take on to the actual programming, and which means that when you look at on different industries, then what you find out is that we are just using digital tools and digital maybe gadgets to solve the business problems. And therefore, it doesn't matter which industry our customer is, as long as it's working in that way.
So communication is very important for you guys because you need to understand like what exactly is the problem, how can you solve that with the client. Absolutely. Another topic that you mentioned in the presentation, is it easy to integrate your smart screw to the cloud, and are you using some sort of proprietary standards or general open ones?
If the answer is yes, I think Cord maybe can answer this one, if it's okay.
Sure. Cord, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Well,
hello.
Questions for you.
Yeah, we built in basically several interfaces. So our screw behaves exactly like a strain gauge. So it's pretty much compatible to any signal conditioner out there. But we also supply the hardware in case the customers, do not have the capabilities to integrate it themselves. And we can serve CAN bus connections. We can stream directly to the cloud. So we are very flexible with that respect.
Well, that's a very conclusive answer. Let me just check for 1 second. Yeah, that would be all for you guys. Thank you both to Henry for joining us on stage, and Cord, of course. Thank you for joining us online. We're going to the next presentation, which will be introduced by Sten Gawronski and Johan Marisbuk from Flowit. They will talk about practical examples of how to accelerate the supply chain overall.
Hello, my name is Sten Gawronski, and I'm here to talk to you about robotic process automation. I'm here on behalf of Flowit, an Estonian IT company that specializes in RPA. And let's talk about it in the context of supply chain automation or supply chain management. What is robotic process automation, or RPA? These are small software applications that use other business software instead of a user. So it helps you to automate your processes, even though you might have several legacy systems in place. What is the advantage of RPA? It is simple design. It's easy to implement. It's fast. It's scalable, and it's non-disruptive. So it's invisible to the user. And the return on investment is quite fast. Why is RPA a hot topic? We are in a place where currently, nowadays, we have lots of manufacturing companies, businesses that have been left behind in the digitalization process. So a lot of things are still done manually. By that, I mean still paper is king in some places, Excel sheets, a lot of manual work getting data from one system to the other. And that takes a lot of time and effort, and it is not very motivating for the employees. Now, there are certain things I need to specify or clarify about RPA. RPA is not AI. It is a rule-based bot that does tasks where the outcome is predictable. So there is certain rules in place. It is scalable and it's stable. And it eliminates repetitive work for the employees. That's where RPA does the most and is the most valuable companion in your businesses. Here's a comparison between different approaches to digitalization. Now, RPA is not the only thing, but compared to the others, in a sense of complexity and ROI, RPA is way ahead. Let's take, for instance, outsourcing your digitalization in a sense that call centers, for instance, you outsource your support for your clients. It can be complex and it can be time-consuming, and the results might not be what you expected. Also, business automation with solutions, or building something from scratch for your own, a custom solution, can take a long time and can be very expensive. RPA is the perfect solution in order to help you out with that. Now, business impact of RPA and how we measure the impact that it has is that we avoid human errors, it is faster throughput, and less routine work. Now, that's logical that the cost reduction, the lower risks and higher volumes and better job satisfaction is something that we all strive forward to. Here is an example that we've actually done here, or a case study that we've done here in Estonia with a manufacturing company that does custom metalwork for their customers, where the customers send in their 3D or CAD drawings, and the manufacturer then tries to produce them. Now, there's a long process before product actually goes into production. There's a lot of sending emails back and forth with offers and requests, trying to eliminate maybe mistakes in the drawings, and analyzing what the time of production would be and when would be the best time to produce it. Now, we built a robot for them that does these things automatically. So it gathers all the CAD drawings, it takes out the relevant information from emails and the drawings, finds also out where the mistakes are, and then according to that information, it provides the customer with the offer and the price tag to it. And also gives an estimated time of production according to the company's workloads. That's done all automatically in a few minutes. Now, since we've actually implemented the RPA or the little robot, we now are doing 80% of the offers automatically without any human intervention. That's 160 hours a week saved just on repetitive and routine work by your employees. And that's a huge cost savings. And that was just the beginning. This was the initial pilot phase that we did with them to see where we could have the biggest impact with RPA. Now, this is our approach, how we start with our projects or our customers. We do a launch, we do a pilot where the customer can see the results straight away. With RPA, that's very easy to do. And then we take the step further and further and go into processes or into the bottlenecks that the company has today and solve them as quickly as possible, without any long delays or interrupting the business flow as they are working. In addition, here are just a few points that RPA really stands out. As you can see, quick deployment, scalability, and load peak reduction. And because it's a robot, it can work 24/7. So the benefits are clear to see. Here are also a few results or other industries that we've been involved in and where we help with RPA to automate the processes. In public sector, in other industries like accounting firms or solicitation firms, we've had great results. And that can be also applied to German companies or German manufacturing companies. Now, just before I finish, I would like you to think about your company. How could digitalization help in your company, and where are the biggest bottlenecks that you could solve with RPA straight away? Try to calculate the potential return on investment and the impact that RPA could have. And then ask your customers, because the feedback loop is necessary to see how they would recommend or how they would like your process to change. What would help them to be happier? And then if you have any questions or would like to go a little bit deeper and have Flowit help you with the analysis of or map out the process that need the biggest improvement, I'm here to help you, and Flowit, and we'll be happy to go through the step-by-step process with you. Thank you very much. My name is Sten Gavronski, and hope to talk to you soon.
Well, thank you very much, Sten, for that interesting presentation. Because Sten couldn't make it, we have Johan Maris Buck here on stage. He is a partner and business development manager at Flowit. And we will talk further about this topic, the supply chain and how to accelerate it. We do have a couple of questions from the audience as well. The first one would be, wait, sorry if I get that here correct. Yes. Why should any of the participating companies use a digitalization partner from Estonia? Is there any IT skill in Estonia, or what would your answer be to this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. My answer would be that Estonia, compared to similar countries as Estonia, is different because, let's say, digitalization or e-governance, etc., are in our DNA. We have lived in that world for 10 or more years, and we'll be living more in that's a world. And we think of the digital possibilities a bit differently, I would say, personal-based. So we understand the possibilities of the digitalization, and we feel it every day.
I can confirm that personally. I mean, I'm German, but I've lived here for almost exactly 5 years now. And I can confirm, I mean, I've never been to a government office in Estonia. You do digital signatures and so on. I feel like IT, to a certain extent, has to be a part of your DNA by now. So that is absolutely true. How do you start this innovation initiative? Like, how do you get started with this process?
We start by defining the processes, understanding the customer processes, finding the, let's say, the low-hanging fruits or apples from the processes, what to automate, what to digitalize, how to be better, faster, stronger compared to your competitors. So that we always start from the understanding of the processes, mapping them up. Then we can make the ROI calculations on the automation costs, and we understand what to automate, where to move on. And then we start with automating the low-hanging fruits.
Absolutely. I think especially at the start, the ROI of these solutions should be quite good. So tackling the easiest solutions first makes perfect sense.
ROI calculators are on our website as well, flowit.de. Welcome.
Well, that's good news for you guys in the audience, isn't it? One very fair question. What are usually the biggest problems with those digitalization projects? Where do they lie? What do you think?
That is a very good question as well. I would say that the biggest problems are if the project moves from the business side to the IT side. The business has to drive it. The business has to feel that it helps them and it gives fast benefits. Otherwise, if the project goes down the stairs to the IT, usually it will stop. There is no need from the IT side to move on with that project because it makes a bit their life harder or more complicated, and that is why it always should have a responsible person from the business side and understand the real benefits that they will get from that.
Sort of strategic communication between the different departments to understand that it makes sense for both sides if they pull in the same direction. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending time with us. We are going to the next presentation, which will be done by Merle Maigre from CybExer, and she will talk about boosting the human element in cybersecurity at times of crisis, and we will later be joined by Hans Logas from CybExer as well. Let's go.
Hello, my name is Merle Maigre, and I feel passionate about all things cyber. I would like to talk to you today about how we can boost human elements in cybersecurity at times of crisis. Now, I have the privilege of having seen cybersecurity from many different angles. First, from the government perspective, where I used to work, most recently as the director of NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center in Tallinn. Before that, working as the National Security Advisor to the President of Estonia, and then also as a NATO policy planner in NATO Section's office. I currently look at cybersecurity from the private sector as I work as the Executive Vice President for Government Relations at an Estonian cybersecurity company called CybExer Technologies. CybExer Technologies is a NATO-awarded company with a mission to empower people in ensuring their cybersecurity. We offer governments, international organizations, and private enterprises cyber awareness training environment. We offer cyber range-based research and development, and sophisticated large-scale cyber security exercises. The focus of ours is human security in the middle of cybersecurity. Now, you might wonder, why should your enterprise do training with an Estonian company? How can we be trusted? Well, I'd say that your government trusts us, so perhaps so can you. Back in 2017, as part of Estonia's EU Council presidency, CybExer offered its online platform for European defense ministers when they did a first time ever tabletop cybersecurity exercise. Last summer, in 2019, CybExer's Stratex platform was used in Helsinki for EU internal ministers as part of scenario-based policy discussions. And this was all in the framework of Finnish EU Council presidency. Now, for the past couple of months, coronavirus has closed our homes, our cities, our offices, and schools. It has forced us all in home. The web remains our lifeline. We growingly rely on cyberspace as we get news, as we order food, or stay in touch with our extended families. Unfortunately, cyber criminals have also aggressively made use of this crisis. We have seen increase in fraud, cybercrime, and cyber attacks. Hospitals, research centers, and many enterprises have seen ransomware, phishing emails, DDoS attacks, malware, and data stealing apps applied. How to counter this? How to counter the COVID-19 crisis in cyber? Well, one of the ways for the private enterprises to do that is to support their employees in raising their cyber awareness training. But of course, each investment has to be carefully considered these days. How can you make sure that the training is effective? Here, I would like to share with you an idea, a solution based on Estonian digital experience of how to fight COVID-19, how to build resilience. CybExer is offering cyber hygiene comprehensive risk mapping platform. This is a platform that links e-course for the employees and a comprehensive risk assessment for your whole organization. What an enterprise gets out of this 30-40 minute course is a comprehensive risk matrix covering different areas. You can find out about your employees' attitude, their knowledge about technology and security, their exposure to social media, and the effects of corporate culture. At the end of each online session, each person gets some recommendations how to counter the cyber threats. I would now like to hand over to my colleague Hans, who will walk you through the digital course in a couple of minutes.
My name is Hans Logas, and I work as an analyst at CybExer Technologies. Thank you, Merle, for giving me a chance to show our viewers a glimpse of our platform. Our company platform can be installed on your premises or in the cloud, and is accessible as a very easy-to-use website. So after logging in, I see my dashboard here. I have a number of courses, and I have not really completed my Cyber Hygiene 3 course. So I start the course and see the first part called Quiz. Here I have 10 simple questions which map out my current risks and current threat level and exposure to different risks in cybersecurity. Maybe one question touches on authentication. Do I know what is multi-factor authentication, and in how many accounts do I really use it? Next question touches on the topics of USB memory drives. Another one asks me about if I'm processing or sending or saving work-related information in my personal phone, my personal computing device. Other questions ask me to assess how good am I in recognizing scams, malware, or phishing in reputable websites like Google, or finding them in an emails. After finishing those 10 questions, I get to the core part of the course in the study material. Here I'm presented with 20 cases. These are situations from real life where I have to make a decision or assessment about this case. For example, this is a person called Eva who has to choose a password for her new app. Another case touches on topic about USB drives. This is about Tom, who's transporting a lot of sensitive information on an external drive. But he really doesn't know if you need to maybe encrypt those documents or leave them plainly readable to everybody. Other cases also present real-life situations where somebody in the office finds confidential documents and really has no idea how to handle this situation without leaking this information externally. Should I really post that information to my social media group chat with the colleagues, or should I bring those documents to the responsible person in the office? Every case has an automated built-in risk assessment. For example, in this case, where a person gets a request from the CEO to transfer a large sum of money to an external business partner. We ask, what would you do in a similar situation? And I can choose the answer that maybe this is a very risky situation and I would seek confirmation from the CEO by phone. Or by executive's direct request, I should make the payment now. Now, if I choose an answer like that, and maybe I leave a feedback that I really think this is a good idea, I press save and I get automated risk assessment about my behavior. Your answer about making the wire transfer based only on one email is not the lowest risk behavior. And we accompany this risk assessment with a learning material that's easy to grasp and understandable and references external best practices, standards, and guidelines. All of the cases, text, images, and references to policies and guidelines can be and will be customized to your organization specifics to make the training as effective as possible. After completing the 3 stages in the course, I reach an automated risk profile, which highlight my highest risks and show where I've done pretty good. What makes this risk profile extremely useful is the ability to compare the results across organization. We have the average of our risk profile here, and we see that our company is doing pretty good in detecting risks in removable media, but we're not so good at detecting risks in authentication or portable devices. Our attitude and discipline is very good, but people tend to make shortcuts and exceptions. So let's compare those results across some other groups, like between managers, specialists, and other users. And we see the results are different. And this risk assessment really helps us highlight the priorities for additional training, additional security technologies, or other mitigations to lower those risks among those respective categories. Thank you very much for your time, and I would really like to show you our platform more thoroughly.
So to sum up, what we help you to do is to get a comprehensive cybersecurity risk assessment for your whole organization. Because almost all cyber incidents start with an unsuspecting individual opening yet another email using the same password over and over again or something alike. We help your employees to build up cyber hygiene skills because we believe that in today's digitally dependent society, human is the most important link. The rule is simple. Regardless of our job, our age, or responsibilities, we all need some cyber hygiene risks. We need that to stay safe and to not pose risks to others. Now, for those watching this video, I share a secret. Feel free to check out our landing page at mycyberhygiene.com and try out our free cyber hygiene test. If you like it, feel free to get in touch with either myself or my colleague Hans, and we can discuss more about tailored solutions for your company. Thank you.
Well, I think this is one of those secrets that you can share between your colleagues as well, if you so wish. Thank you so much for the presentation, both to Merle and Hans. With us in the studio today is Hans Logas, who obviously works at CybExer as an analyst as well. We already have quite a few questions, so we might as well get started immediately. The first one is relating to COVID-19, as are many things right now. During COVID-19, the use of different web solutions have been on the rise. And can you offer some tips against cybercriminals in this context?
Well, it has been really turbulent times here, but the motivations behind cybercrime have not really changed. Maybe the lures have, or some techniques, but it's still the same process as the attackers try to put us, the potential victims, into a position of urgency where we make a mistake. And so we have to resist that. Just take our time, think through our actions, ask for support from your colleagues, from partners, from the community, actually. And I think this is the first line of defense.
I think both of you have pointed out that that the human part of the chain is sometimes the weakest link, and the one that is at the same time the most easily to strengthen as well, because you don't have to pay millions on cybersecurity and so on, but rather strengthen the human element of your organization. About these organizations, do you have a certain target group for your solutions? Is there a limit in terms of size for the companies?
Well, it's true that we work mainly with government agencies and bigger enterprises, but we have a number of actually customers already who are small and medium-sized enterprises in very different areas like retail, production, energy, even small medical companies. So actually these risks are not really different for them. For smaller organizations. And often the impact of a cyber attack might be even more serious for those. So we really want to work with very different kind of organizations, even smaller companies. We wish to provide them a solution that they can really put into action, and we're really open to that.
I think there are very small entities and very small servers that store a small amount of data, but that might still be extremely crucial.
Exactly.
One of the things that comes to my mind was in the UK, a national hospital that was on lockdown because of ransomware, which again happens because one person clicks on the wrong email and that's it.
Exactly. The digitalization around here is meaning that we are all interconnected. So even the small, it's seemingly insignificant links can be actually very, very important.
Yeah. You don't have to mess up at all. It could just be the colleague sitting right next to you. That is certainly true. Going along the sort of same line, what do you see as the main risks or threats in cyber at the moment?
Very good question, but I think if you look at the bigger trend here, then truth is digitalization is everywhere, right? It's driving growth, it's driving, it's giving us huge opportunities, but at the same time, it brings along huge technical complexity. You know, the world is becoming more difficult to understand for all of us. So what is very important here is to bring everybody along, educate your people, your employees, leave nobody behind, no matter what their job role or title is. And this human element is actually the risk, but also opportunity to be more resilient.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the perfect moment right now for everybody to sit down for an hour at home and go through the tests and so on. Very true. Well, Hans, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to the audience for the questions. And we're going straight to the next presentation, which will be done by Veikko Raime from Mobi Lab. He will talk about how to build a business intelligence dashboard, which would guide you through difficult times. Let's take a look.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Veikko Raime. I come from a company called Mobi Lab. And today I will talk about how to build a business intelligence dashboard for small and micro businesses. When we drive a car, we tend to continuously check on the speed. So if the curve is ahead, we slow down just a little bit to pass the curve and then accelerate again. When I work with small companies, I tend to see that we drive our businesses half blindly. So we might stop a car immediately when there is a scary curve ahead, or we might go with the same speed and not pass the curve at all. Today I will give you 6 steps which I usually pass with companies to build the dashboard that businesses can look at when making decisions. First step for me is always talk to an accountant. So accountants have a different role in a different countries, in a different companies. In many cases, the accountant is good when accountant is invisible. So we send invoices, all the paperwork to an accountant once in a month. And then we kind of hope that the taxes are declared, there is no risks happening, and maybe some papers come back a little bit later. What that leads to is accountants live in a parallel world describing our business in a very generic way, but not actually reflecting our business model, so there is no useful information out of these paperwork. So talking to an accountant, the idea is that I will ask them to adjust a little bit the income statement, the balance sheet, to reflect how my business structure actually looks like. So that gives me later on information that I can use in my dashboards. Second step for me is always check on the main inputs. So different companies have different main inputs. Let's say I'm running a company with 30 people that is doing software and design, and the main cost for me is salary cost. And salary cost goes together with the taxes that I pay for together with the salary. Now, if I need to know a little bit more, I need to know more about the salaries. Where do I spend them? So it's very important to know which projects are taking salaries, how much salaries, and if I'm spending some salaries on a customer acquisition cost, so that's about increasing my revenues later on, or I'm spending something on overheads like office management, overall administration, and so on and so on. It's easy to track time, so there's tools available, every company can do that. No worries about that. On a first step, I usually go and integrate all those things together. So you can imagine a robot going around and taking data from here and there and putting it in one place. When robot is taking this data, it comes from a different data sources. So it can be a POS system, it can be a work log, it can be an accounting software, it can be some kind of Excel sheets that you had before. The whole idea is that we copy that data into one big database. We use Google BigQuery for that, but there's also other options available. Good thing about Google BigQuery is that it can scale up later on when your company grows. Once you have the data in one place, it's time to think about the KPIs or the metrics or the speed or whatever you need to see in your dashboard. In current situation with the virus, I've seen that new questions pop up that I need to measure. For example, the question, how long is my runway? So if my revenue is reduced 50%, maybe to zero in some cases, I need to know how much cash do I have. But the problem is that the cash on account that we always look isn't really the good metric, because not all of the cash I have on my account belongs to me. I need to pay still my bills, I need to pay salaries, and maybe I have some cash that I haven't received yet, but sent the invoices out. So the better metric to describe that is net working capital, for example. The other question I've seen asked is that what's my velocity or what's my potential and how much I'm actually using it. So metric to describe that is utilization rate. How much percentage of the salaries am I spending to do actually produce revenue? It could be 40% of my people are working with the clients, and the rest of the 60 is actually overheads. So if it's too small, I might want to change gear back and slow down a bit. If it's too big, it's a sign that I can't accelerate after the curve is passed. But once you have the KPIs in place, it's time to build the dashboards. Here I have only a few rules. So dashboard means that it needs to be dynamic. My business is agile. I need to add KPIs. I need to build multiple dashboards on the same database. So it's wise to use this tool that you can change yourself, not to order some kind of web development company to do you a new version of it. We use, again, product from Google that is called Data Studio, but there's loads of other alternatives available as well. Dashboards are important to know, are also meant to use by different roles. So multiple dashboards go for multiple people, and you have a bunch of them, not just one. Sixth step is kind of unique for us because we work on a mobile industry. Then we tend to separate information that we need at the office, at our home, from an information that we need every day when we're moving outside. So we're true believers of the mobility, and that's why we take few of the dashboards with us. Mobile dashboard is something that we check daily. Let's say I run a bar, and that's my main business. Next morning, I want to know how the last night went. What did I sell most? Do I need to add some kind of products to a next day? Should I check my inventory? Should I add more people or a security to my compared to the last night? For that information, I have a mobile dashboard to check next morning. And that's about it. I genuinely believe myself that all of those steps can be done by any company independently themselves. But of course, few steps need some technical help. Some steps might need design help. If you need any help, my email, my contacts are here. So feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to consult you through this process. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Veikko, for this presentation, and you're obviously also with us here in the studio. Quite interesting process of like how this business intelligence dashboard is being made. The first question that actually relates to this making process is, how long does it take to create one?
Well, it takes like a week to get started off and get first numbers in place. Of course, it's kind of like a first taste of it, what your accounting numbers might look on a dashboard, and or first metrics that is immediately to kind of be available. To actually have meaningful data for different roles and incorporate that to the organization, that takes 2 months average, I would say.
Okay. In addition to the more technical aspects, would that process also require organizational changes within your clients?
I would say so, yes, because small organizations, when they start, they are kind of making their decisions based on the gut feeling, and that's all good. Like founders can understand how the business works, how the business model works, and make the decisions. Now, when you have numbers available and you need to have different numbers for different roles in your company, of course, that makes a change for organization as well. Now you have to define the goals, define what we're actually after, and what is the success criteria. So it takes a few steps around the organization to explain where we're aiming to and why we're using the KPIs.
Must also be a big challenge for the leaders of an organization to sort of, I mean, of course, they can still listen to their gut feeling, but to sort of look at the data as well at the same time and think, well, actually, the data might bring me in a different direction. How do you experience that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it is a challenge for a leader, and it's also might go wrong way. Like if you go too much on a KPI oriented, you forgot the people. So you have to balance between those. That there's people still there with their emotions, the ways of working, and it's not purely about KPIs. And let's say, mistake would be that you take all these numbers and make a salary depending on all those numbers and so on and so on. That's not what the aim is. Aim is just to kind of have a sanity check for your decisions based on numbers.
Would you say that there are a certain type of companies that would most benefit from such a BI dashboard, or is it more a general thing?
It is rather a general thing, but of course the data is different. Let's say I can take example of hospitality business or HoReCa business. Let's say you have like a free bar somewhere around the town and you want to check them. Then of course the like a daily information is more important to kind of operational information. The next morning you check how the last night went, and then do you need to do some adjustments. When it comes to like agencies or ours, like a software agency where the 95 of, let's say, most of the costs are actually like coming from salaries, they are very expensive salaries, then I would say you focus more on the weekly and monthly information and make sure that our people are working on the right things.
Well, thank you very much for giving us an overview over the BI dashboard and how it works and for whom it works best. We are going to our last presentation for today, which will be done by Lukas Ilves from the company called GuardTime. He will talk about MIDA, which will solve your trust and security issues with cloud systems.
Hi, my name is Lukas Ilves. I'm head of strategy at GuardTime, an enterprise cybersecurity company founded in Estonia in 2007. At GuardTime, we use our uniquely scalable blockchain technology to solve data management and cybersecurity challenges in critical industries like telecoms, insurance, and health, and for the world's most advanced digital governments. Today, I'm excited to talk to you about how we use our product, MIDA for Cloud, to solve the trust and security problems behind cloud. Now, cloud is a fantastic tool. Industry 4.0, AI, 5G, IoT, edge, it all relies on a solid cloud infrastructure. And think about it, the convenience of computing at a tap allows entirely new business models. And in the last few years, with virtualization, you can now build these complex systems with just a few lines of code. So what that means, of course, is that regulated industries, defense, public sector, as well as business and mission and safety critical applications and data, they all want to move to cloud, but there's a problem, security. Because cloud also brings with it new security problems. Cloud service providers, they advertise that cloud is secure. And in spite of that, though, breaches keep on happening. And what we actually see is that the problem's getting worse. It's getting worse because of the increasing complexity of cloud deployments. You're more likely to make configuration errors, which is going to create new security holes. And this makes security more expensive. On top of all this, cloud brings new compliance and regulatory risks, both in terms of data protection and sector-specific regulation. The result is that one recent study, for instance, found that more than half of CIOs assess that the risk of security breaches in cloud is higher than for traditional on-premise systems. And that shouldn't surprise us when we think about what cloud is. Somebody else's computer, as we like to say. Now, that's the whole point, right? Outsourcing is the value of cloud. You let someone else handle the complexity of running your IT, but it brings new questions and new trust problems. You find yourself sitting outside of your cloud asking, is my cloud service provider following the SLA? Have they reported everything that's going on? Do I know that the data hasn't been subject to a law enforcement request? What about a cyber attack? What about an insider attack? And the problem is getting worse due to the growing complexity of cloud configurations. Now, the way that most existing cloud security tools try to solve this problem is by taking logs reported to you by your cloud system and then applying sophisticated big data and AI to those logs. This approach has a couple of problems. Event correlation is complex, it's resource intensive, and it doesn't happen in real time. And due to the scale of clouds today, those logs are a massive data set that in turn has to be stored somewhere, which is also expensive. And to analyze them, you need a sophisticated and a large security team. But beyond that, more fundamentally, you're relying on what your cloud service provider or your cloud operator is telling you. But there's a lot they don't tell you. For instance, which machines is my process actually running on? What is the provable location of your data? Auditing isn't the solution to answering these questions. Your cloud service provider gets audited perhaps once a year, maybe twice a year, the way that you do. And that doesn't tell you what's going on in real time today with your data and your processes. In effect, if we were trying to summarize the state of cloud security today, I find that the situation is getting worse. The average cost of a breach has gone up to 3.6 million euros. Time to detection is still measured in months or years after the incident occurs. Cloud security is like looking for a needle in a haystack in someone else's barn that you can only inspect on the weekends. So we think it's time for a paradigm shift. This is why we invented MIDA for Cloud. We take a different approach that turns your cloud into its own reporting system. Instead of sitting outside of your cloud and waiting to receive logs of what happened, we put monitoring agents inside the cloud deployment. And we capture data from all the various configurations of what's going on in the cloud. Security groups, load balancers, VMs, storage, web apps, serverless compute, and turn that into a single snapshot that represents the state of your cloud deployment in that second. Then, we also go into the level of individual machines and capture information there, which no logging system gives you access to. And we take these snapshots, which tell you what the configuration of your cloud is at a certain second, and we ask, every second, is the state of the cloud what it should be? And we validate that against security standards, regulatory requirements like BSI IT Grundschutz or ISO 2701, and against your own security baseline that you've established with your cloud system. The system as a whole is a game changer. You get real-time, once per second, high-quality information on what's going on in the cloud, including information that existing monitoring tools can't give you. Then we secure that information with GuardTime's hyperscalable KSI blockchain, which means you can trust the accuracy of that information now, and you can show it later to audit and compliance. And because you trust the information you're getting from your cloud, you can take immediate action. If everything is in order, you know your cloud is compliant, and you save that for a detailed, second-by-second, auditable, immutable record of your cloud security. But if something's wrong, you can take immediate action, including automated action. For instance, you can immediately shut down your entire cloud deployment if something trips a certain security control. Now, in addition to giving you new functionality, MIDA for Cloud also makes your cloud security easier to run. Because our tools can be deployed in any cloud environment, you can draw together information from many sources into a single pane of glass. And this makes it easy to get an overview of security in a multi-cloud environment or in a mixed environment with both cloud and on-prem or hybrid cloud. We also make we make the life of your security engineers easier too. Instead of having your security engineer work through hundreds of alerts a day, we give him a simple overview of how processes are running and a short list of alerts to look at. In summary, our revolutionary cloud security and governance tool, MIDA for Cloud, empowers you with what we call real-time truth. And real-time truth allows you to realize a number of benefits. Most importantly, decrease time to detection of security incidents. But you can also automate your security operations, requiring less staff to actively be monitoring your cloud. And you can simplify your response to incidents, also making that more automated. All of this automation, it saves you money. Detecting incidents faster saves you a lot of money. And in addition to that, you can achieve continuous audit and compliance that's based on provable, in-court cryptographic evidence. And as a result of all of this, you can use more cloud services with your critical processes and your sensitive data. So, for everyone running mission-critical services, providing products where security is a must, or working with sensitive data in regulated industries or in government, we want to help you take your business to the next level by trusting cloud and by using cloud more. So I've spoken today about MIDA for Cloud, but we also deploy similar capabilities for 5G, IoT, and edge computing. So please drop us a line and we can talk about your business.
Well, I like how snappy real-time truth sounds. It sounds like something that we should all aspire to. And with us today is, of course, Lukas from the company GuardTime. And we already have quite a few questions from the audience. I am German, however, so I'm very aware of the timing here as well. What is an example of the kind of incident that MIDA would help prevent, for example?
Thank you, Florian. So a good example is the Capital One breach that happened last year, where 100 million individuals' data was leaked. And basically what was behind that was that the complex cloud infrastructure behind AWS was misconfigured, and that allowed the attacker, who was actually an insider, to go ahead and get those data. Now, if the type of attack that was used, the type of angle or exploit that was used in that case would have been used, and they've been running MIDA, basically they would have gotten an alert within 1 second or 2 seconds of that misconfiguration coming into being, saying, you need to go fix this. And that just wouldn't have happened in the first place. That insider would have been caught if they'd actually gotten to the point of having a hole to exploit.
And then, of course, there's the issue of how much later do you find out about it instead if you don't run MIDA. Absolutely.
And in this case, it was the FBI found out because the data started appearing for sale.
And that's always awkward, isn't it, when the FBI shows up and says, hey, we found some of your data sets. Could you give us some examples of the kinds of industries where MIDA is used?
Sure. So government is one big case. Telecoms is another. One that we're finding a lot of traction in right now is around financial services and banking. And the reason for that is is that banks have some really unique compliance requirements. It's not just GDPR, but they also have to comply with banking secrecy rules, with Chinese walls, for instance, to make sure that the acquisition information they have doesn't, if they're involved in M&A, doesn't relate to some of the advice that they're giving for investments. And so the ability that MIDA has to really give you real-time awareness of whether you're complying with standards, whether you're following all these very complicated controls, actually allows banks to move data to cloud that they previously couldn't. And that becomes a big cost saver and a big innovation driver.
Very good. You did mention the blockchain element. Could you explain what the blockchain does as part of MIDA?
Sure. So we don't put data into the blockchain. We use this blockchain data integrity layer to actually make sure that what we're computing in the cloud and the data of what's happening in the cloud is unaltered and is provable later on. So what that lets us do is it gives us two unique capabilities. The first is that a lot of this processing can happen in the cloud already. You don't have to move it into your own machine, your own log storage, and you can trust what's come out of there without actually having to go and constantly reinspect it. And the second is that when you then go to these logs historically later on for compliance purposes, a week, a month, a year later, you have proof that they're accurate, that they actually reflected the state of the cloud in a certain point of time, that they haven't been altered.
Sounds like you're making the lives of many people easier. The more people or companies would use MIDA in their systems. Lukas, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, if you want to get in touch with Lukas Ilves, you can get in touch with him via GuardTime. The contact details should be on WorksUp as well. For the time being, that would be everything, but not just yet. First of all, I would kindly ask you to take a look at the task icon under the agenda element, conclusion by the moderator, where you can give us some feedback as well, which I would be very grateful for as well. Apart from that, you're obviously free to get in touch with people through the profile section to find maybe people with whom you could make contacts, create new corporations as well. For the time being, thank you very much for participating. Be sure to contact the companies if you wish to receive more information about them. In general, stay safe and healthy. We will go on a slight, tiny summer break. We deserve one, and you deserve one as well. So let's keep clear of the virus, have a good time, and we will see you next time. Have a great time. Bye-bye.